Hey, do you remember the movie Dante's Peak? Yeah, it was pretty bad. Anyways, today we're looking at Firewalker, episode 9 of season 2. Debuting on the Fox network November 18th, 1994, Firewalker follows agents Mulder and Scully as they investigate a remote science outpost located just outside a volcano, where everyone seems to be acting rather oddly. This kinda sounds familiar, but I can't quite put my finger on why. At a volcano observatory in California, something strange is going on as they've received an emergency evac request from one of their research teams. Connecting to a robot named Firewalker, they use the video feed to see inside a volcano where the request is seemingly coming from.
Erickson. What the hell?
Not only is there a dead body, there somehow appears to be something living inside an active volcano. Dr. Adam Pierce has brought this case to the attention of Mulder and Scully, who I guess are back together again. I know the X-Files were reopened, but I didn't know that meant they were partnered back up too. I'm not complaining though.
Now, look at this. Whoa. What the hell is that?
Looked like a shadow to me, Mulder, but it really doesn't take much to get this guy going. May I refer back to the homeless man's drawing from Jersey Devil? Dr. Pierce left the project weeks prior after a falling out with Daniel Trepkos, a brilliant man who Pierce thought was starting to crack.
We've got 20 million tax dollars in this project. If word of it were to get out...
Regardless of the people that died, the only thing that seems to matter is of course the money spent on their research. And if word were to get out about the incident, well, goodbye funding.
I don't think it's a good idea for you to go.
Mulder, I appreciate your concern, but I'm ready. I want to work.
She probably should take some time off, seeing as how she just reappeared after an abduction of all things, but I just think Mulder is worried about losing her again more than anything else. The agents are flown up to the outpost where they take in the lovely sights of the stock footage.
Shouldn't we find the rest of the descent team first?
I just want to take a quick damage survey. I'll catch up with you in a few minutes.
Splitting up when something strange is going on. I'm sure he'll return completely unharmed. Inside the outpost, they find all the equipment is smashed, and this is really starting to feel all too familiar. Mulder is searching the facility when he's suddenly attacked by someone hiding in the dark. He doesn't do a very good job though, because he's quickly apprehended by Mulder, who isn't too pleased with nearly being decapitated.
Well, who did you think I was that you thought you had to protect yourself? Trepkos.
I guess Pierce was right for leaving when he did, because it looks like Trepkos really did lose his marbles. Ludwig is a robotics engineer and tells the agents Trepkos can run hot or cold depending on the day, but killing crew members is a bit more than just running hot or cold.
Well, it's okay. You can come out now. The cavalry's here.
The agents are introduced to more of the team who have been hiding from Trepkos. Peter Tanaka, who seems to be a bit under the weather. Even Scully hides behind Mulder when he starts coughing. And Jesse O'Neill, no relation to April. But girl, what the hell is up with that haircut?
He had a bipolar disorder. I think that's what it was.
This is beyond being bipolar at this point. There's a bit more drama here than we were first led to believe though. Jesse may be romantically involved with Trepkos, who was a thesis advisor of hers at the university, and Trepkos is married. I wonder what his wife thinks of all of this. Huh, a remote science outpost and a new life form? This is a completely original idea for the X-Files. Mulder pulls Scully to the side because he thinks these people are all hiding something and know more than they're letting on. Meanwhile, we catch back up with Pierce, who's taking notes of some of their field equipment.
No one can leave.
Trepkos should really start using a moisturizer. The team later that night find Pierce's body and bring him back, placing him inside a freezer. But Ludwig and Peter oddly won't allow Mulder to help. Mulder once again pulls Scully to the side because he's been going over Trepkos' notes and believes he found a silicon-based life form which, according to him, is the holy grail of science. So now Mulder is more interested in that than the people that are being murdered.
Are you okay? I hate this place.
Scully has a little one-on-one with Jesse, you know, typical girl talk, boys, shoes, homicidal psychopaths you're having an affair with. Trepkos hasn't been taking his meds, claiming they're poisoning his mind, and Jesse poisoning his body. What, does she have the clap? After a few minor tremors, Mulder heads back to the team to find out what's going on.
You feeling alright?
Yeah.
Mulder runs and grabs Scully because Peter isn't looking so hot. She radios dispatch for emergency pickup because something seems to be killing him. Meanwhile, Mulder and Ludwig are carrying the stretchered Peter to the landing site. That seems like a perfectly normal symptom of a fever. They get him outside, but then he just bolted into the woods. Ludwig attempts to head down to Peter, but Mulder doesn't let him, and for good reason.
What the was that?
They bring Peter back, and best Scully can guess is it's some kind of a fungus. Peter had sand in his lungs, which is the byproduct of a silicon-based life form apparently, and Mulder is all giddy that he finally has some proof.
He discovered the spore in the samples Firewalker brought up.
He would have told us.
Unfortunately for everyone there, any one of them could have come in contact with a spore from this thing, so it's quarantine time. Mulder radios the helicopter that they won't be making it, and to inform the FBI and CDC that they'll have to quarantine due to an unknown biological agent.
I'm gonna go find Trepkos.
What if he's already dead?
They'll have a tough time answering my questions.
Even in the midst of a killer fungus, Mulder still has to make with the jokes. Regardless, he just wants to know where this thing came from because of what it can mean for the origin of life. Ludwig is such a little sneak though. While Mulder is off looking for Trepkos, Scully is going to perform an autopsy on Peter, and it's lucky they just happen to have all the necessary equipment.
So you're finally gonna go after Trepkos? Well, I'll tell you one thing. You won't find him with those.
Ludwig tells Mulder that his only shot at finding Trepkos is if he tags along as a guide. So Mulder brings him along, even though I'm sure he'd rather do this alone. Not to worry though, Mulder, because you're on your own now. Trepkos takes Mulder's weapon and pours gas all over Ludwig, because he wasn't trying to kill him so much as what's inside. And poor Ludwig, because this is the second time he's had something try to burst out of his body.
That unless these spores are ingested or inhaled by the host organism immediately upon their release, they become harmless.
Alright, so as long as you're not near anyone when they explode, you should have no issue.
I just need to run a few more tests, but I think we're gonna be okay.
Scully, you really do have the worst timing. So I guess Jesse's screwed. Whatever this fungus is was apparently brought to the surface by Firewalker, and now Trepkos is trying to make sure it doesn't spread.
What did you find?
It was porous obsidian.
After the first descent, Firewalker brought back some kind of porous rock, and once cracked open, infected the first victim. The rest of the team, unfortunately, all happened to be around when the fungus burst, except for Trepkos, that is, who was in another room.
What about O'Neill?
Jesse.
Is she exposed to the spore?
They were all exposed.
Mulder wants to warn Scully about Jesse, but Trepkos isn't about to let that happen. Back with Scully when the lights are suddenly cut, but thankfully she finds Jesse, who knows just what to do in this situation.
Jesse, what are you doing?
Scully desperately tries cutting the handcuffs off her and Jesse, while Mulder, who was seemingly let go by Trepkos, races to her. Completely out of options, Scully does the only thing she can and locks Jesse in another room, hoping the spores won't be able to reach her. I still don't think the door would have stopped all those spores from getting to Scully though. But why did Jesse attack Scully to begin with? Was it the fungus controlling her, looking for a new host?
I told her it would change her life.
Well, being dead is kind of a change. Mulder radios Search and Rescue, who ask how many survivors they have, to which Mulder says just him and Scully. Military arrive, confiscating any and all notes on the incident, while Mulder and Scully enjoy a nice 30-day quarantine. Trepkos, meanwhile, is left to live in the volcano with a dead Jesse, I guess?
And of the events that occurred at Mount Avalon between the 11th and 13th of November 1994, mine stands as the only record.
Firewalker isn't a great episode. It's just too run-of-the-mill and very paint by numbers. Yes, it's nice to have Scully back, but it just feels like a retread of something we've seen before. I think the comparison to Ice is really well deserved. You have a research team in a remote location dealing with an unknown organism while everyone becomes paranoid about who may or may not be infected. I don't think there's enough different about this one to really warrant its existence. If you want an episode like this, just watch Ice again. Firewalker has a 7.1 on IMDb, and I think that's a bit high. The episode for me is no higher than a 5. Howard Gordon, the writer, was inspired to write this episode after watching a news report about a robot called Project Dante that NASA had used to survey a volcano. He wanted to use the episode to explore the possible results of Mulder's search for the truth, and said, "The natural endpoint of this quest for the truth is madness." Like mentioned earlier, this episode does share many similarities to other episodes like Ice, and James Wong wasn't too keen on this. He threw some criticism on the episode saying, "If the show starts to cannibalize itself, there's gonna be trouble." Howard Gordon, however, felt differently and thought there was just enough different in the episode to have it stand out from Ice. Chris Carter said about the episode, "I think that's the first time in our second season that we were telling what's one of our serial stories rather than our mythological stories. In other words, it was an X-File rather than one of the cosmology shows that explore the characters." Now, I have nothing to back up what I'm about to say next, and I've looked high and low, but this episode also feels like it was loosely based on the cordyceps fungus. This fungus infects insects such as ants through airborne spores, turning them into zombies. The fungus forces the insect to go where conditions are best for it to grow and spread. It bursts through the body in the same manner and releases spores once it's big enough to infect more insects. This fungus was also used as the basis for the hit video game series The Last of Us, but luckily the fungus isn't capable of human infection. Yet anyways. For such a mid-episode, it does have a pretty big supporting cast. Hiro Kanagawa played Peter. He's a Japanese-born actor who grew up in Guelph, Ontario, and then Sterling Heights, Michigan before moving back to Japan to attend high school. He's been in tons of things and appears in a few more episodes of The X-Files. Leland Orser played Jason Ludwig, and yet another character actor who I guarantee you've seen in something at some point. From Saving Private Ryan to the Taken series, he's pretty much been in it all. Shawnee Smith played Jessie O'Neill, and she's had a fairly robust career as well. She's had 2 fairly successful sitcoms, Becker with Ted Danson, and Anger Management alongside Charlie Sheen. Along with that, she also has a cult following in the horror genre, appearing in the fantastic Blob remake from 1988, which I am definitely going to do a video on someday, and the Saw series appearing in Saw, Saw 2, Saw 3, Saw 6, and the upcoming Saw 10 or Saw X, which opens September 29th. But for God's sake, can someone get this woman a decent haircut? And last but not least, Bradley Whitford, who played Daniel Trepkos. This guy has been in everything from The Handmaid's Tale to Godzilla and The Cabin in the Woods. He's probably best known for playing in 155 episodes of The West Wing, but for me, he's always going to be that sniveling rat Eric Gordon from Billy Madison. Firewalker is not a great episode, and if you've seen Ice and liked that episode, well, just watch that one again, because you really don't need to see this. Well, don't go too far, because when we return, the agents will have a cult of religious vegans on their hands in the episode Red Museum. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and please subscribe if you did. Also, please infect that like button with a parasitic fungus. Thank you all for watching, and stay spooky.
Scully's back.
I'm ready. I want to work.
Friday, she and Mulder travel to the hottest place on Earth.
The hell is that? We don't know.
To encounter a terror beyond imagination.
It killed 2 men.
Don't go down there!
A brand new X-Files, Friday at 9, 8 Central.